I am, again, Charles Gaiennie. It's a funny sounding and spelling name. I was born in Santa Monica, California. My dad started his career out there with Dick Van Dyke. He was a radio personality. From Louisiana, though, returned to Louisiana at a very young age, and have been here ever since. Raised in Bayou de Large, if you know where that is, in Ontario, Louisiana. So that's why I talk funny, because I'm from down there. But a graduate of Nicholls State University, sometime at LSU, and Terrebonne High School. So this is home for me. And I've been here all my life. I'm going to give you a little background about myself, although that's not the topic of what I'm talking about. But I think it's important for you to know just some things about me, because it contrasts with what I'm going to talk about. I'm 51 years old right now. I have an MBA, a lot of college education. I own my own company. I have a public relations, marketing, and advertising firm. We've been in business. I've been in this field for about 25 years, and I've had this company for about 8 years. I'm married 27 years to the same woman. Met a wonderful girl from down the valley, a good Cajun girl from South Dakota. Who fed me well, and took me home to my mom's house, and I knew that was going to be a good deal. So we have 3 children, Andrew, Matthew, and Emma. They are 24, 22, and 20 years old, respectively, all in the process of, they're in college. My son Matthew works with me directly. I am a charter member of what we teasingly call the 47 Forever Club. We are a part of a group of 7 couples who met in college, have been friends ever since. All of us married each other, and each one of us have remained married. All of us, every single couple, remained married all these years. We used to call ourselves the 47 Forever Club because we thought that was a good age to stop. So we will forever be 47. I was baptized Roman Catholic, but I was raised Episcopalian. My father, my mother and father are, I'm from that union and known no other parents than them. My father was married previously, and of course at the time it was just not possible to be reconciled in the Catholic Church. So anyway, you could not live in a non-sacramental world, so I was raised in the Episcopal Church. So I may get some things wrong. In fact, I probably will. So those of you that have been around longer than I have, forgive me. But anyway, about 12 years ago, we came back in full communion with the Roman Catholic Church at Annunciata, and have been there since. And I love being a Roman Catholic. I love it. It is everything that I am and everything that's important to me. And they say that we converts make the best Catholics sometimes, because since coming back to Mother Rome, I have done a lot. I am a regular reader. I've been a Eucharistic minister actively. I've been Grand Knight of our KC Council twice, President of our Pastoral Council once, and so forth. So anyway, the point is I'm deeply involved in the life of our church. It's very, very important to me what I do. So I tell you all this just to kind of give you a perspective. So by the standards of many people, I am a good man, okay? I cause no harm. I do good. I fill the bucket back up wherever I go and whatever I do. I am a good man. I'm raised by a good man. I consider myself a good man. But there was something wrong, big time wrong, and I couldn't figure it out what it was. I knew the reason I started with that passage from the Pilgrim's Guide, because it defines everything that I was searching for, and I'm so grateful to be able to put words to it. To feel a discontent for the world and to aspire to do better things, to resign yourself to life, to refuse to resign yourself to a life of mediocrity. And you are a pilgrim who cannot find a lasting city on earth. That's me. That is definitely me. And so I say this. I give you this, background information just to give you something to contrast. A good man, totally lost and unaware and unable and yearning for something else. So, just as God often does, He presents us with things in a completely unexpected way. I received an invitation, a wonderful invitation. He said, "Have you heard about Cursillio?" I said, "Yeah, I've heard the word, but I have no idea what that's about. What is that?" He said, "Well, let me tell you what it is." Actually, he told me very little about what it was. He said, "Trust me. And when are you available November the 11th? So I said, "Okay, let's go." So the next thing I knew, I'm being whisked away from my office with this little, sack of clothes in my hand. I had no idea where I was going, what I was doing. So anyway, why I was going to Opelousas of all places. But anyway, trusting that I did, that's where I wound up. And of course, became a part of Cursillo 424. and was advised, as I'm sure all of us who've been through Cursillio are advised, just go with it, just listen, trust, participate, and be part of this. So I was at St. John's table and surrounded by, men of all walks of life, with all different backgrounds and characteristics and everything like that. And of course, as you know, through the process, many things are discussed and said and evaluated. And I'm listening to all the different stories and trials and burdens of the people in the room with me, and I'm thinking, no. I love my wife. I got a good job. My house is fine. I don't know what it's like to be cold, hungry, or abandoned. I don't know what they're talking about. I've never experienced that kind of stuff. So, why am I here? Well, it came to me in kind of like a sledgehammer before long why I was there. And through the various sessions of learning, one of the sessions was about sanctifying grace. And Father Ted, of course, who's the spiritual director at Prairie Rhonde Cursillo Center over there, was conducting the session, and he was discussing the concept of sanctifying grace. And what I came to learn is something that I didn't know. I had no concept of what this was. But what I did come to learn was that sanctifying grace was being in that moment where we are in God and God is in us. And that without that moment of without being in sanctifying grace, that we're unable to enter the kingdom of heaven, that we're unable to actually come into full communion with God, to accept the promises that He offers us. And again, for those of you that are more learned than I, forgive me, I will get this technically wrong, but just kind of bear with me on this. But I mean, and it was just like, I was just like stunned. I was just like mute. I couldn't speak. I couldn't think. I couldn't move. I was just like, wow. That was it. I was exposed in that moment. Exactly, that was it. That was what I was searching for. I understood at that moment. But I was deeply troubled because I knew that I was not in sanctifying grace. There was no question in my mind. Even with all the laundry list I just gave you, I was so far removed from sanctifying grace because I was in mortal sin. And mortal sin, as you know, is the thing that keeps us from being in sanctifying grace. And I didn't know that until that moment. So, and I looked it up again to try to get it right. And so a definition that I was able to find of sanctifying grace is that sanctifying grace is the grace which confers on our souls a new life, that is, a sharing in the life of God Himself. By sanctifying grace, our souls are made holy and pleasing to God. It is an abiding or permanent grace we gain by baptism and lose by mortal sin. Wow. It also goes on to tell us, which I was told there as well, that when we are in the possession of sanctifying grace, we're free from mortal sin, and the two cannot dwell together. And there was my conflict defined. Mortal sin dwelling within me, unable to receive sanctifying grace. So I made a determination right then and there that I was not going to leave Cursillio without being in sanctifying grace. It was not going to happen. So then here was the good news. The good news was that Father Ted said, guess what? I can tell you, not only is it available, I'll tell you how to get it right now. It's called confession and reconciliation. You can do it. I'll be in the back of the church right now. Come on down. So man, if I wasn't first in line, I was probably second in line. So anyway, so I did. It was not the first time I've made a confession and such as that. I've done that several times. But I was very anxious to get down there. But when I finally when I was sitting there with Father Ted, I told him some stuff and some things that were probably certainly were mortal sins. But I didn't tell him everything. I didn't really tell him the mortal sin. And I knew it when it was happening, and I received the blessing, and I moved on, and maybe I was sanctified at that moment. I don't know, but I was troubled. I could not participate on after that, and so I sat around the table, going through the motions and listening, and contributing, everything like that, and on a couple of occasions, Father Ted made just an offer to the room. He said, if any of you haven't done reconciliation yet, just wave at me and I'll do that. Big mistake on his part, because it was Saturday night, and of course, as we all know, this concludes Sunday night. So Saturday night, big pivotal moment for me. I'm sitting around the table, we're deep in, late into the night, and everything like that. Father Ted, who's gives his heart and soul to this process, he just took a moment of rest. He kind of leaned against the doorpost, right outside. And I just stood up, and I left. I didn't run, but I didn't speak to anybody at the table. I went straight to him, and I grabbed him by the elbow, and I took him outside. And it was dark, and it was cold, and I was shivering. I was just shaking like this. And I'm not quite sure because I was cold or because I was terrified about what I was about to do. But I mean, there was no formality of a confession. He wasn't on the side of a screen. It was just, he was right in front of me. And I said, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I was raised an Episcopalian. I'm going to get this wrong. But let me tell you something. And I told him, and I did, and I confessed. I confessed every sin that was on my heart. And at that moment, I'm trying to get through this. I didn't do this really well at Cursillio either. But I knew that I was in sanctifying grace. And I mean, I wept. And I just, as I hope I won't do now. But the point is that was it. It was the one thing that, and not that all of the lessons, all the information that we receive at Cursillio aren't important, they all are. But the one thing that I took away from Cursillio was that. And it's, and again, this is a little bit more about the mortal sins. And here's again a definition I've been able to find, that mortal sin is a sin of a grave nature. Here's where it gets tough, is that mortal sin is committed with full knowledge of the sinner. And mortal sin is committed with the deliberate consent of the sinner. And that was me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's the knowledge that you're sinning, and the knowledge that you're surrounded by grace, and the knowledge that you're given all these gifts, and you sin anyway. And you not only, maybe you don't seek it out, but you certainly don't block it out either. And the knowledge and the participation in that. And then there's another piece of scripture from St. Paul that defines that. It says that, and he goes on and says, St. Paul gives us a list of grave sins. He states that anyone who commits these sins shall not enter the kingdom of heaven, which is a concept that I cannot imagine living under. Paul says, who says, now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanliness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, sedition, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of which I tell you before, as I have told you in the time past, that they who do not do such, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. I won't tell you which of those I am in or was in, but I'm in that list, okay? And again, I'm a good man, folks. I'm a good man. And I'm not supposed to be there, right? But I was. So I came to understand that, and again, it was probably the hardest moment of my life. It really was, you know, to do what needed to be done, but to know that I could not conclude Cursillio, you know, as we've all, you know, I say all, I'm just think of myself. I mean, you know, I've come out of confession, I've come, you know, left the Mass, I've, you know, done all these things, you know, feeling holy and sanctified, but never like this, never like this. And it has completely defined and refined me as a man. And also with that, of course, it reminds us that, that particularly as men, it's not enough to be a good man, because being a good man, at least for me, you know, just means to conduct myself in my own little sphere. There's more to it than that. There's acts of grace. There's conscious, physical, tangible acts that we're called to do. And that has been what has changed in me, is that, you know, I have the gift of meeting with godly men once a week at 6 a.m. at Burger King, and I love it. I love it, and I look forward to it, as I look forward to being with you men, you know, on Thursday evenings. Even though I was a little tired badly tonight, but I mean, this matters to me, and things that I would have never done in the past are important to me. A new office that I'm in right now has a prayer room. It's right off my office, and could have easily been a closet, but it's not, and it's so important to me. You know, the morning offering that is in the Pilgrim's Guide, and all the different things. I prayed a novena, which I'd never done in my life. So anyway, all those things are important, and they're very much a part of who I am because of what I learned and what I received. And it was the thing that I was searching for, and I'm so grateful for that. And I will, you know, it's too humble, but I appreciate the invitation I received from my brother, Raylan, because none of this would have happened without his act of grace of reaching out to me. You know, not knowing if I would say yes, but he did it anyway. And I did say yes, and I am so deeply grateful for that. So that is my imperfect understanding of sanctifying grace, something deeply within me now, and that I pray will always be within me. I hope that I remain in sanctifying grace. I know that there are acts that I need to return to stay in sanctifying grace. But anyway, it was a beautiful gift, and I appreciate you allowing me to